Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Knights of the Roundball Table. This is the show that brings some of the brightest minds from Bulls Twitter to discuss one of the greatest institutions on the face of the earth, the Chicago Bulls. Tonight's guest, in his first appearance on the Knights of the Roundball Table, one half of the iconic Ball podcast, younger brother to Knight John, Bulls outsider and Bulls outcast superstar, friend of the realm, the strongest Knight, Big Dave Watson. How you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm beautiful. I don't know what to do with all that love right there, but give it right back to you and tell you that we wouldn't be where we are without you. And that's an honest statement. For real, Fred.
Oh, thanks, Big Dave. I don't believe that for a minute, but I do appreciate the kind words. I do appreciate the kind words. And in his first appearance on the Roundball Table, the other half of the iconic Ball podcast, a man of means, a man of substance, a wealth of information on all things basketball, the great Knight known as C-Dub. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. The great Knight?
Yeah, the great Knight. I mean, I gotta admit it. You're one of the most knowledgeable people. I remember when they drafted Laurie, you calmed me down. And remember that we were together? I was so upset. In retrospect, I think I might have been right on that one. I don't know. But anyhow, and finally, returning to the Roundball Table after a short absence, a controversial Knight, one who has caused a bit of a stir on Twitter in recent days with some comments that some have considered to be overtures of Dog Bowl Nation. He is here to provide his side of his testimony. The podfather and the host of the Bulls Beat, my co-pilot on the Big Red Bus, Knight Doug Tonis. How you doing, my friend?
Man, everyone else got all kinds of love.
Well,
nothing for me. I had like a comeback already for you too, and I couldn't even use it because I'm thrown under the bus. Boy,
literally thrown under the bus. Well, I got to admit, Doug, you've angered many people with your comments over recent days. So this will be an interesting conversation. We're really looking forward to hear your side of the story. But let's go on to topic number one.
Issue number one, the Bulls go big. The Bulls acquired Nikola Vucevic, Troy Brown Jr., Daniel Tice, A.F. Aminu, and Javonte Green last Thursday in a surprising move that said the Bulls are going for it. What did you think of the deal, and what was your opinion of the disastrous first game in San Antonio?
We'll start out with the podfather, Doug Tonis.
I have a feeling that three people are going to rip on me right after I'm done talking.
You're probably right. Well deserved.
But I thought the deal was fine. I feel this is a move that probably takes you from around 35 wins to maybe 42, 43 wins in a normal season, whatever that prorates out to this season. And, it's hard to get better through trades, and the Bulls got better, and so you can be happy about that. I think 3 years from now, we're going to look at this trade and go, wow, that was a waste. We just lost in the first round, twice, maybe missed the playoffs once, maybe lost 3 times in the first round. And now we lost a couple draft picks, maybe one of them being a lottery pick. And we're just worse off for not having these other assets. And then Vucevic is going to be past his prime and not someone you can really continue to build around. And so, it's good. The Bulls will be more enjoyable to watch for the next year. But I don't think they're anywhere close to being anything meaningful, and there was no way to do that, right? There's no way to go from being a mid-30s team to like a 60s team with the assets we had. So, this was probably the best we could do. I don't think we could do better in the trade, but I would have probably hung on to my assets and, tried to be better in the future. I get the risk with that. Zach LaVine probably really wants to win right now, and you're going to risk losing him if you didn't do something. There's a lot of things at play, but ultimately, I don't expect great things to come out of this group. And I think it's going to end up being a heavy cost in the long run for the team.
Big Dave, bring some sanity to this discussion. Counter, please.
I don't know about sanity, but I will bring love. I promise you that. I am ecstatic. I was overjoyed that they got him. Been talking about Vooch for the past 2 years about how I would love him on this team. I am not concerned about going forward in the future, because if it's anybody I have all my faith and all my trust in, it's A.K. Mark Eversley. They have done nothing yet to show me they don't know what they're doing out there. So obviously when they make a move like that, they're thinking ahead. They know what's going on and what's going to happen in the future, and they have an idea about that. So I'm not concerned about that. But they let you know that they're trying to win. They're trying to be a better team right now. They saw the trash. They saw Wendell Carter Jr. miss a wide open layup and fall on his face and said, we can't do this anymore. We have to make a move. So I appreciate the move that they made and bringing in brand new players that are going to affect this team in a positive way. This is all good to me. And even in that first game, Fred, that you said, it felt like an open gym run. It just felt like a practice run that they were doing against the Spurs. It's the Spurs, for God's sakes. Of course, they're going to be, talented and know what they're going to do and know how to attack the Bulls because it's the Spurs. It's what they do. But I am very excited about it. I can't wait to see how this team gels together over the next few games. And as far as the future is concerned, I'm excited about that too. Because like I said, if it's any guys that I have all the faith and all the love for, and I know they're going to do the right thing for this team because they want to win, it's AK and Mark Eversley. So I'm excited about it.
Great to hear. C-Dub, what's your comments on do you side more with Doug or are you more on Big Dave's side?
Oh, I'm on Big Dave's side. I'm behind him, but you can't see me, behind him. But no, look, man, I love Vooch. Dave and I both love Vooch a lot. I think this move, and it's interesting, like this is not, to piggyback on what Dave said, this is not like the final team for the next 5 years. Right. So we have to trust that he's going to bring on more talent and make more acquisitions in the future, because AK Arturas has proven, and he said that he wants to win. So I think he's proven that he's willing to trade assets or people that maybe you like or dislike, whatever. He doesn't care. I think this is not the only move he's going to make. I think he's going to make bolder moves in the future, and that's something we have to hope for. That we have a guy in the front office that can bring an all-star talent, but also make bold moves, as we didn't see with the previous regime. Right. This guy, so I just got to sit back and think that he has more moves, plans ahead in the future to get his team better, and that this is not the final move, of course.
Doug, did you have anything to counter with after these two body blows?
I mean, nothing said there is just contradicts anything I said. Future moves are, at this point, hookers, cocaine, and rainbows. I mean, there's nothing anyone is saying what is going to happen, who the player is going to be, how we're going to get them, what trade assets we have. Yeah, well, just something. We're just going to wave our hands and another star is going to show up here. Mm-hmm. Now, in all seriousness, I mean, here's realistically what the Bulls could do. I think this summer they can sign and trade Lowry to someone, and they'll get a trade exception back. So they'll just send Lowry in a second rounder and get back a second rounder, and then they'll have a $20 million trade exception, which they can use to get a player later for $20 million. So you can't combine that to get someone bigger than that, but that would allow them to bring in another piece. I think that's a likely thing they can do. They're in a weird spot, if they want to chase Lonzo Ball this offseason, which is something a lot of people have talked about, because they have to waive Sato and Thad, just have enough money to offer him, and then you might not win the offer. And then if you don't, you're completely hosed. So that's going to be an interesting situation to see if there's some back channel negotiations or something, and they kind of know what's going on, or if they work a sign and trade with New Orleans to make sure they get him, or if they just go in a different direction altogether. They could get max cap room this year. There's no one to go after, so they probably won't. That would require renouncing Lowry and waiving Thad and Sato. They could get max cap room next year, but not the 10-year max. There's a bunch of interesting max players next year, but they're all 10-year max guys who are 40-something million. They can't get that much, but they can get around 36. But there's not a lot of players in that realm. And then they can't take any deal that extends beyond 1 year if they want to do that, which then also puts them in a weird situation where they want to improve, I'm sure, next year right away, but then that might screw up what they want to do in 2022. So there are some options. It's not as bad as I made it sound. You can't really trade a lot of draft picks. The next pick you can offer is 2025 conditionally. If you don't convey 2024, you can trade Patrick Williams, which I think is probably the most likely avenue, maybe with Sato as an expiring. And I know we like Pat Williams as a future guy, but if you're really trying to build something quickly, that's what's going to bring in a star player back is to offer someone who maybe has star upside. So it'll be interesting to see what the next move is. I'm not. I overplay how bad I feel about this. I'm really neutral about it. I don't dislike it. I get why they did it. It made sense to me. Yeah. But I think there's just risk. I think there's a lot of risk to it too. But like you guys said, at some point we were very conservative for a decade. Going for some risk, it feels good for fans. I understand why everyone is pretty juiced about it. It's just change of pace is just kind of nice at this point. So I get it. I'm not quite as juiced, but I get it.
Well, the correct answer is there is greatness within this team. And all my concerns were addressed on the rewatch this morning. The Bulls got whatever they wanted in the pick and roll with Vooch and Zach. They were able to provide good looks for all the teammates. Laurie struggled. Pat Will struggled. They weren't able to convert. But the big picture is we finally became a destination with this move. 2 all-stars made us a place to be. They're 2 all-stars that seem to be well-liked among the NBA community. We could have gone in the lottery direction, but that's not guaranteed. There's nothing guaranteed there. This is guaranteed. We have 2 all-stars now. We needed to show Zach we were serious about doing business and getting to the playoffs. I didn't think we really had a choice. Like, what is our other option? To make the playoffs as a 10 or 9 seed, get a late lottery pick. What does that guarantee us? Really nothing, right? We had to go for it. I'm glad we finally went in that direction of taking some younger assets and actually moving those to get a player who makes a difference. And Vooch absolutely makes a difference. So
yeah, let me add, Fred, real quick. Like,
sure.
There's nothing I've seen AK or Eversley do since they've gotten here that makes me question that they don't know what they want to do in the future. Like, every move that they've made so far has been a logical, awesome move. And it's been a move that has improved the team. So when you get rid of the former coach, you get rid of the trainer that I hated. You make these trades and you bring in these kind of guys. Like, they have done absolutely nothing from top to bottom to show me that they don't know basketball and they're just kind of in over their heads and they're just flying by the seat of their pants. There's a structure there. There's a focus there. And I'm going to trust that, you know what I'm saying, because of what I've seen them do so far.
Yeah. C-Dub, did you want to add anything before we go to the next topic?
Well, no, I like the position we're in, right? We're a better team. We still have assets, and we have a new front office who seems to know what they're doing. That's a better position than we were in the previous regime and at the beginning of the year. So it's an improvement. And I know, it just to me, the future is optimistic for the Bulls.
Yeah. And just
I 2 things for you, Fred. One, I can't believe that defense wasn't one of your concerns after the first game, or that after watching it again, that you were somehow reassured by what happened there. Yeah. Because it just seems like a completely asinine thing to say, that all of your concerns were mitigated. I mean, I guess I play basketball. Your defense isn't one of your concerns.
That's so true. I never believed in defense, but go on.
And secondly, I don't know, like Vucevic just recruiting guys to Orlando like crazy. So clearly landing him makes us a destination. I mean, all the star players that played with him in Orlando, because he was a big time recruiter.
Orlando.
That's my point, though.
Who wants to be in Orlando in the winter? I mean, like, you want to be in a sunny Florida state.
I went to Orlando.
In Chicago. I mean, it's amazing. The players are going to flock. I mean, every time I hear an all-star talk about another player, it's usually Vucevic, like LeBron. Man, that Vucevic.
Hey, Kevin Durant has waxed poetically about him. That's not true. And my whole point is, Zach by himself is not going to recruit. Vucevic by himself is not going to recruit. You put them together, they're like the Wonder Twins. Unite, and then great things happen.
Great. Yeah.
Zach waxed poetically about Vucevic?
Durant waxed poetically about Vucevic on Twitter. It's a Google Durant Vucevic Twitter.
Durant. Okay.
Yeah, Kevin Durant. Yeah.
I misunderstood you. I tease. I do think we are much more of a destination after this trade than we were before.
Absolutely.
We can come up with the right assets. Definitely having 2 good players and a commitment towards trying to get better, I think does make us a destination. I ribbing you a little bit, but I do somewhat agree.
There we go. Let's go on to topic number 2.
Issue number 2, the best rebuild move. Before this season, what was the best move the Bulls did? Was it the Jimmy Butler trade, signing Thad Young? Was it matching Zach LaVine's offer from Sacramento, or the Kobe White draft pick?
Let's start out with you, Big Dave, on this one. Feel free to choose any of those 4, or give me one more if we haven't mentioned it. But what was the best roster move of the rebuild before this season?
Oh, this was easy for me. It's the Zach signing over Sacramento. Like, that's it. Like, you told people exactly who Zach LaVine is when you did that. Because if you remember, and I'm sure you do, Fred, there was kind of a stall, and the Bulls were kind of taking their time and dragging their feet with what they wanted to do with Zach LaVine at that time. Because coming off the season that he had, coming off the knee injury and the rehab, they were acting like, well, we don't know, we might, we'll see. And they were kind of trying to play games and drag it out. So when Sacramento came in and said, no, we want him, he's good, they were like, oh, no. Immediately, and I mean immediately, like 7 minutes later, they said, no, we're signing him. He's with us. We're rolling with him. So when you make that kind of commitment to a guy like Zach LaVine, you're telling your team exactly what you want to be and what you want to go forth and being in the future, that he's going to be the guy that's either going to be your one or your number two. And they made that choice. So, and that's fine. And that choice has been good for them since they've made that choice. The contract is beautiful. You saw him be an all-star this year. You can argue him being an all-star last year, and the only reason he couldn't be was because of the team and the wins that they didn't have. So Zach LaVine has been awesome. The man is having a 20, 50, 40, well, he's having a 50, 40, 90 season or 50, 40, 80 season, which has only been done by like Larry Bird a few times and been done by Steph Curry. So he's been awesome for what he's done for the Bulls, and he's definitely the guy that is going forward and carrying this team. But now bringing in a guy like Vooch with him, having a 1 and a 2, because a lot of people can debate if Zach is going to be the 1, you know what I'm saying, or the 2 on this team. You could definitely debate that for sure. But knowing that you got 2 all-stars on your team going forward, it's awesome. It's a great feeling. You don't worry about it anymore. You don't concern yourself with that. So it's a good feeling knowing that Zach LaVine is the guy on this team.
C-Dub, what do you think?
Yeah, man, Zach, man. I remember when I've always been a fan of Zach, and I love, because we all love NBA players who are shooting guards, who are 6'6" and athletic as hell. But when I saw something in Zach was his mentality toward the game. I've always just liked him as a player. So when he got with the signing the contract, I just knew that it was a great deal, a great bargain for the Bulls. We knew that eventually, I hoped eventually he would get better every year, which he has. I think it may be a year slower than I thought, but I knew it'd be a bargain. You have potential all-star, potential guy who's the best athletic player in the NBA, who's going to get better and better and better, who could be like the cornerstone of your team. And that's what he turned out to be. So, yeah, investing in that and getting a bargain deal at this point, yeah, I'll take the Zach. I'll take Zach.
So two matching Zach Sacramento offer for Zach. What say you, Doug Tonis?
How is this even a question? Why did you even ask us this? Like who's better?
Because it's a brilliant question. That's why.
Who's better, Kobe White or Zach LaVine? I don't know. Maybe it's Zach LaVine. Come on, that's not even a question.
There were 4 options. There were 4 qualified options.
Not really.
Butler trade, Thad Young signing was a good one.
Yeah. Thad Young signing was amazing. It's like a good half season so far. I mean, like I like Thad, but I mean, comparing him to Zach, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Of course, it's Zach. And the only thing I'll add about it, and not to say that it wasn't the best move, it's obviously the best move, and it's the best move by such a wide margin. It's laughable to pick anything else. But it really turned out well. But there was some risk there. I mean, you look at this team who had just gone through hell because Derrick Rose tore his ACL and was never able to come back, and then you take Zach LaVine, who was coming back from the ACL and was complete and total trash when he came back for like 1/3 of a season, and then got hurt at the end of it, or maybe quasi-hurt because they were really trying to tank. Hard to know what was really going on there, but he did not look good. He was really bad. And then, you then had to make a decision, is he going to be healthy? Is it just going to come around? And you don't really know for sure. And you just got burned by a different athletic player with the same injury. There was a little bit more risk there than it looks like now, because then as soon as you signed him, he was amazing. Right out of the gates for that first year, he was great every year. And I'm so glad it worked out. And I love Zach LaVine. I'm a huge fan, so I'm glad it worked. But it's I'm a little surprised with how well it worked. I was definitely scarred by that Derrick Rose injury. I'm like, man, why are we betting on guys with torn ACLs? That just seems like a terrible idea. But it worked out great. Obviously amazing, and super happy to have Zach. Hope we give him the max deal when he's eligible, or if we can negotiate this summer. Keep that guy bull.
Well, let's be honest. I'd say half the fan base did not want us to match that deal.
Yeah.
I'd say it was high as half the – I mean, there were some prominent I'm trying to think some prominent people who covered the team. Nick Friedel was absolutely against us matching that deal. And I remember people, when we did match it, saying how ridiculously overpaid he was. Yeah. In retrospect, is that one of the dumbest, statements now? I mean, he's making $19 million a year, and he's clearly overplayed that contract.
At the time though, torn ACL, under 50%.
Didn't play well.
Percentage, under 50% true shooting percentage. You don't know if he's going to be healthy. There is risk. So once that risk is gone, and then now all of a sudden he's twice the player he ever was. He literally is twice the player he ever was before the ACL. That was a leap that even if he never got hurt, was far from guaranteed. It's like
Right.
far from
Yeah,
guaranteed. So
I think it just risking everything. There's risking everything, but you pay for potential, right? That's what you hope. You hope that in the future he's gonna be way better and play above what he's getting paid. I was confident in that. I think Dave was. Apparently, a lot of Bulls fans weren't. I thought it was weird, but I get it. I get he was injured. I get it, but I just liked him as a player. I had a feeling that he would get to this level. So
I would have loved him if it weren't for the ACL. I would have never doubted him. The ACL, like I said, after following the Derrick Rose thing, scared the hell out of me.
Sure.
But yeah, it worked out great. You guys are right.
Well,
Tip of my virtual hat.
Well, unfortunately, no, you all got the question wrong. The correct answer is the Butler trade.
Wow.
The Butler trade is the
This
answer.
sounds petty, Fred. This sounds petty.
No, the Butler trade brought us Zach, number one. So that was the most important thing. But more importantly, or also equally as important, we tanked that year. We got Wendell Carter Jr. the following year, who later became Vucevic. Without that draft pick, we would not have got Vucevic. We would not have got him without Zach. Everything was dependent on the Butler trade. And I know people say, well, Jimmy would have, we would have had a whole different scenario. I don't think we would have ever achieved what Jimmy did in Miami. First of all, the bubble really made that, in my opinion. There's no way a 5 seed is going to be winning 3 road series in a row if it wasn't in the bubble. But, hats off to Jimmy Butler. He did a great job to get that team to the finals. But we were never going to win anything anyhow, I thought, with Jimmy. I didn't see any way that we could have.
We're going to win something now? We're going to win something like
we are going to win something now. In 2 years, in 2023, we're going to win it all. I'm saying it right now. I'm telling you right now, we're going to win it all in 2023.
You would have been saying that if Jimmy Butler was still here.
I maybe would have said that. I'm not sure. I don't recall.
See that Big Dave and me, you'll be saying that.
Yeah, you would have had that. And listen, we weren't, and me and Dub weren't the biggest Jimmy Butler fans when he was here either. We had no problem with him being traded. Like we said that publicly. But Jimmy Butler was amazing, and if he stayed here, you knew he would have. I think he would have been great to recruit and bring in some guys because he's shown that he's good at that. Guys want to play with a guy like Jimmy Butler, especially coming to Chicago like that. I think it would have been a good move if he stayed here. Like I don't think this team would have been worse. Like you would have been a better team having Jimmy Butler at least going deep into the playoffs with him.
How many teams he's probably played for? I'm sorry. How many tems that he kind of like?
Fourth. This is fourth.
Oh, okay. So he gets along well with guys and teammates and all that kind of stuff on a regular basis, right?
Well, I think that's the point. I think he had to go to Minnesota, have that disaster there. I think think to go to the Sixers, have a disaster there.
Yeah,
to finally get to Miami, and realize, hey, I better.
They didn't want to play
under control. They didn't want to play. They wanted to play in 70.
He didn't want to play against Boston, so there you go. That's why I don't want.
They didn't want to be there. They would.
He didn't want to play on the Bulls, so there you go.
40-point triple-double in the finals, man. I'm giving that dude some love.
Oh, I love it. Oh yeah,
yeah, he's great.
The man ball.
I just think he had to go to Minnesota and he had to go to the 76ers to do what he did for the Heat.
I
don't think it would have happened if he stayed in Chicago. That's
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. Yes.
If you signed Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo and you just like sat on your cap room and then you had like room for 2 max guys with Jimmy Butler on your roster the next year, which would have been the scenario, you could have had something really, really pretty awesome.
Well, how about if Rondo doesn't break his bump, we could have gone to the finals.
That was actually my plan. Was like, don't sign anyone. Wait a year. Have Jimmy Butler and 2 max slots available.
Do we really want to go down this road?
No,
I'm going to say
the money.
Rondo, if he didn't break his hand, we're in the finals. We're up 2-0 on the 1 seed. What are we talking about? I don't know how many times I got to have this argument.
No, Fred. If Jimmy Butler actually showed up in those games, would have been in
game 3, which he was terrible at.
More than 7 shots, like a half or something like that. I don't know.
Called playoff Rondo. When playoff Rondo's around, good things happen, and the good things were happening. Then he broke his hand, and then everything wasn't so good.
Yeah, we were definitely going to win the whole thing with that 41. We were going all the way.
I'm not saying we would have won the whole thing. I'm saying we would have got to the finals. I think it's entirely possible.
Finals? Oh, wow.
What against us?
That's strong.
All right, let's move on to the next topic.
The worst finals team in the history of the NBA. But luck won against us.
I gave the answer, the Butler trade. Let's go on to issue number 3. All right, here we go. Issue number 3.
Issue number 3, start changing. The Bulls starters have been awful this year. What changes would you suggest to the starting lineup going forward?
We'll start out with you on this one, C-Dub.
This is a trick question because they got to do a roster, Fred. And we don't know how they're gonna play with this dude with Vooch in the paint.
Well, yesterday didn't look too good. Let's be honest.
One game. One game.
All right.
They didn't know how to run one post play for my man. They just ran around like he didn't post up or something like that. And Larry had open jump shots off Vucevic basically presence in the paint.
He did.
P-Dub had a lot of open jump shots. He just missed them. I think if you give this team time, I think they're going to start lineup with Pat Will, the starting lineup, and Laurie. I think Laurie has to start. Honestly, do. Yeah, he will get better shots, open shots, which he craves, so he can stand alone in a 3-point corner, 3-point line, and shoot his threes and be happy. P. Will can do the same thing. I think with the new roster with Vooch in the paint, I think if Billy Donovan can finally get an offense to run through the paint, to run through the post out. Remember that? Dump the ball in the post and you pass out. That can happen. It's a drastic change for this team, midstream, but you got new players. So I think you stick with the starting lineup you ran against San Antonio, and you run through offense. You run through Vooch. Vooch has to have the ball. You run through Vooch, and I think you'd be better. I think you'd be fine.
All right, Doug Tonis.
I think in the end, do you care about Lowry marketing is like a really important thing to ask. Because if you're the front office and you're planning to keep Lowry, you kind of have to start him. Just like there's a human aspect to this thing where like you're gonna really demoralize this guy. I think if you send him to the bench, you're probably gonna cost him money in the offseason. Like you're gonna really piss him off. So if you want to keep him, I think you almost have to start him, even though I don't think it's ideal. If you're like me and you're like Lowry does not fit with this new revamped roster. I didn't like him before. I don't like him even more now. And so if you're like me and you're not committed to Lowry and you're really just hoping you can sign and trade him and get a cap exception and then use that to do something else later, in that scenario, I think Lowry is the guy that's out. I think Pat Williams is a future 4. I think it'd be better to start him at the 4. I think you have 2 options. It's either Pat at the 4 or Thad at the 4. And then if you do Thad at the 4, you probably throw Temple at the 3. And if you do, I think you probably put Temple at the 3 either way. Like I just feel like you got to get people into their right positions. And Pat Williams to me does not look like a 3. He struggles defensively as a 3. Offensively, maybe he can play there in spurts. And same with defensively in spurts. But I think he's a 4, and you just want to get him where he belongs. And so it's either Thad or Pat at the 4 and Temple at the 3 for me.
Big Dave, what say you?
Well, a couple points. One, I love how Billy Donovan is not beholden to any lineup. I continue to say there are only 2 people, well, now 2 people on this team who actually have to be in the starting lineup, and that's Zach LaVine and that's Vucevic. That's it. Everybody else can be replaced. Everybody else is fluid. You, depending on how it goes and depending on how they're playing, you can replace everybody, honestly. Those are the only 2 you can't replace. Because even you, Fred, because, I follow you and I watch you and, you're great, especially with your breakdowns. I was watching your breakdown today of showing how Vucevic didn't get the ball in the post from Zach LaVine. And even seeing stuff like that lets you know that this team isn't used to having another great player on their team. Like Zach still doesn't have those kind of trust issues, with a guy like that. Because what it shows you is you're going to have to run your offense through this guy, period. Like, that's what's going to happen. You have to run it through him, and you're going to have to run it through Zach. So once everybody becomes acclimated to that, everything else will kind of fall into place. All these kind of roles will be defined, and we'll figure out who needs to be out there. That's why I love the game against the Spurs. We figured out who wants to play basketball for this team. Troy Brown wants to play basketball for this team. Javonte Green wants to play basketball for this team. We saw guys out there who want to be involved. We'll see if Theis wants to be involved when he comes in here on Monday. And then the Bulls, I think after this week, you'll have a better idea about the rotations and the starting lineup, about who needs to be there. Because I don't think it's not beholden to anybody. I'm not like, these guys have to start. There are only 2 guys I'm like, they have to start. Everybody else, I'm like, we can replace them. We could try it. We can see how it fits on this style and see how it goes. We've seen that Thad Young will probably be the guy that should be playing the 4 over Lowry. And Doug made a great point. Like, if you're talking about Lowry like you want to keep him, you can't send him to the bench. Like, that's a very hard thing to do when you're talking about a guy that you want as a part of this team. But if you're talking about winning and you see that he's not matching up with Vooch, that move might have to be made, because you're seeing how Thad kind of what he brings to that starting lineup and how he makes it easy, because his numbers don't change. but Lowry's numbers have. He's been very inconsistent since he's come back. And y'all know it hurts me to say this because you know I love Lowry Markkanen, and that's my guy and everything. But yeah, I'm not beholden to anybody in the starting lineup except two guys. So everybody can change. It can all be fluid as long as it leads to winning. I'm completely with it.
I mean, I think it's obvious to me that if you want to optimize winning, you play Thad at the 4 and Vooch at the 5. Have those two guys play together as much as possible because I think Thad covers up for limitations that Vooch has on the defensive end. And Thad and Vooch, they can play with anybody on the offensive end. They're both excellent passers. So I think that's a combo that should be together as much as possible. And Tice and Lauri is also a good combo because Tice covers for Lauri's, deficiencies on the defensive end and Tice is a good solid rim defender, whereas Lauri's a rim presenter. So I mean, I think those are the combinations you should go for. The issue here that nobody's talking about and everybody doesn't want to talk about is P. Will. Like, he's been terrible this month. I just said he's a minus 10.7 net rating in March. He had one game where he had his career high. Fantastic. Outside of that game, he's really struggled, and it's no coincidence that this happened when Lauri came back. He's not a 3. He's having trouble on the defensive end at the 3. He's not hitting the three-pointer at a rate that he was before. I think he's shooting around 30% over his last 8 games. He's really struggling. He's really hit that rookie wall. And I think he's the guy whose minutes, unfortunately, if we want to win, it's a question. Do we develop P. Will or do we win? You got to make that choice because you can't do both. And I think Temple would be starting at the 3.
I know one thing. If you play through, if you play through Vooch, you need shooters. Thad's not going to shoot threes on a regular basis. He does not. It's going to have Lauri. If Thad's a lineup was Sato shooting those threes, I'd rather have Lauri shooting those threes. If you run the offense to Vooch, so I'd rather have Lauri start on the lineup for that. And as you pointed Doug and Dave about Lauri's mentality or starting or whatever, Billy Donovan has proven that he doesn't care about that too much. He will bench you if you're not good. Lauri's been benched before. Last year he got benched, I believe. I believe he got. I think he didn't get a start lineup last year. Maybe I may be wrong on that. So I don't think Billy Donovan cares about that. I think Billy wants to win, but I think if the offense to run well, you have to have Vooch. You have to have the offense run through Vooch, and you have to have shooters on the wings on the outside to not down the threes. Yeah. And I think you do that better with that. Unfortunately, come off the bench. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I think Lauri can get way better looks at the basket. I can see P-Dub getting way better looks at the basket. He's going to get more opportunities to shoot threes and jump shots with Vooch if you play inside out.
I think you're asking for trouble, though, if you have Lauri and Vooch and Pat Will at the 3. They showed it yesterday. Defensively, there's no rim protection. It's not a good lineup. P. Will makes a ton of mistakes at the 3. He's a great young raw talent, but right now as a defender, he's not good. He's not good. I tried to highlight that on Twitter today, Dave. How many mistakes he's made? He's made a ton of mistakes on the defensive end. But that's what you expect. That's why Tibbs doesn't play rookies. They make these mistakes. So,
but isn't it all right? Don't you feel okay with him making these kind of mistakes though? Right now,
I'd rather have him make them against backups. Like I said from the beginning of the year, I think you put him in a tough position. He should be coming off the bench where he was used to doing in college. You threw him in this role at the 3 because we don't really have a lot of options there at the 3. And I think now it's starting to hurt him. I mean, now we have to win. Like before, there was still this kind of discussion. Well, we could develop him. If we don't make the playoffs, it's okay. That choice is gone now. Like we have to get into the playoffs. And this has been the problem all year. The starters have got their ass kicked all year. Sure. I thought the move to get Wendell Carter and Kobe on the bench was because for whatever reason, Zach, Lauri, and P. Will together have been awful. And so they said, well, what's the best combo together according to on-off numbers? Well, it's Sato and it's Thad. Let's throw them in with them and see what happens. Guess what? It hasn't worked.
Hold on, Fred. Let's just not go over that like that. Act like Wendell Carter Jr. was awesome for that reason, and they had to do that. Let's not do that.
Are you going to go to start Gafford movement again? Because we got to end the show.
Here you go with this movement stuff. Yes, and what did Gafford do yesterday? I just want to point that out. How was Gafford yesterday, Fred? 13 points, 5 boards, 3 blocks, in 2 quarters. That's what he did. So I just want to point that out off the bench. But yeah, come on, Fred. Come on, dude. Like it wasn't like
he's a fine player.
World
He's a fine player. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, Wendell deserved to go to the bench. He wasn't playing good. Same with Kobe. But I think that was the actual reason why they did it, though. Honestly, was they needed to figure out to get these three guys working together, or they were blaming it on Kobe and Wendell. And guess what? The answer was that wasn't the problem. These three guys, for whatever reason, can't play well together.
Need a point guard.
Need a point. Yes. Thank you.
For one thing in there for you. The problem, or not problem, but a dynamic that will change with Vucevic in there is that he's going to take a lot of shots. He's a great passer. He's going to be a much bigger component of the offense than Wendell Carter was, right? Like that's a no-brainer. He's a much better player. He's going to be a much bigger piece of the offense.
Yes.
A lot of what Thad brought to the table was sort of this initialization of the offense in the post. He found lots of guys passing. We started calling him Thadjic Johnson. Like he was taking on that role. And I don't know if those opportunities are going to be there, as C-Dub pointed out, when you start playing through Vooch. Like Thad's strengths are not going to be utilized as much in the starting lineup now that you've got these two stars taking on a lot of the usage of the team. And so Thad might be a little better on the bench in that role where he can get some of that usage and play similarly to what Vooch is doing in the starting lineup. And then you keep Williams in there at the 4 where he's much more comfortable. And then his defense can help. And he hopefully his shooting comes back and he's an okay open 3-point shooter. I mean, I think we know Williams is best when he's got a little bit of room, quite a lot of room, and he has kind of like this slow set release if he's getting those opportunities. I don't know that that'll work, but I do think Thad's abilities are going to be minimized with less usage, less touches with Vooch here. And it's a good thing that Vooch is good in doing those things, but it will mean that Thad is like Cedar pointed out, I think as well. Like he's not a shooter. We don't want to put him back in a Boylan role that he was there in the past.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
It's a great point. Except when you
I know, man. I'm agreeing with both of you all.
It's a great point. It's a great point for half.
I'm ribbing you.
Hold on a second. It's a great point for half the court. I'm talking on the defensive end. That's where the problems are going to be. I call me crazy. I have a feeling that Thad and Vooch are going to figure it out if they're on the court together. On the offensive end. They're professionals. Yes, he's not going to be put in probably in the same role that he was before, but they're still very talented offensive players. They'll figure it out. The issue's on the defensive end. Who's the best player to pair with Vooch on the defensive end, considering that he's not a great defender? Who's the best interior defender outside of, it's Thad Young. Thad Young's our best interior defender.
He's not team. Special though at that. You don't say it like he's that guy, like he's just awesome at the defensive end. He's cool at the defensive end, Thad Young. With Lowry, all he has to do is stay in front of his man and realize he's 7 feet tall. Like once he figures that out, I think the defense will be fine for him.
Well, it's year 4 though. I mean, he hasn't figured it out.
Right. You're absolutely right. But bringing Vooch in there might change some things as far as Lauri's mentality. We still got to see how that works out.
You only got 25 minutes of Thad, right? Like that's how much he's playing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I want to waste all of them with Vooch, where he's just not going to be having the same impact with the ball in his hand, making the same passes, initiating the offense.
Good point.
Like I agree, he'll figure it out. Like I don't think he'll be bad with Vucevic. It's just he's not going to be as useful as he is in this other role where he is commanding a lot more usage. And the Bulls don't have a lot of guys that can do that, right? Like it's probably Thad, Vooch, and Zach. Maybe Kobe a little bit when he's on his on game. But they don't have a lot of guys that do that. So I'd rather see him get more of his minutes. Yeah, at the end of the game, you can close with Thad and Vooch. Yeah. And get that defense at the end for sure. But in some of the middle, I think you just want a little bit. You want to stagger those guys a little bit. It's kind of like having Manu not in the starting lineup for the Spurs. He was better than whoever was in front of him, but they were staggering their options because they only had so many initiators on the team. They basically had 3 guys that could ever draw a double team, and they didn't want all 3 of them to start and then go to the bench and have nothing. And I think the Bulls are a little bit in that boat, and especially because that at this age is not a 36, 37 minute per game player. If he was, that would be less of a concern. You could stagger them off the breaks. You bring one guy out at 6 minutes and one guy out at 12. But with him only playing 25, you're going to burn him out in the first and third quarters. You want him at the end, I think.
So go ahead.
There's no magical. Again, this is like us before the trade. We're trying to, pick apart average defensive players and trying to figure out how to make them be great. There's not a great defensive player on this team. They're not a great defensive team. I don't think you could solve it really. I think the best bet, like what you guys mentioned, is how the best players play at the end of the game, the fourth quarter. And I don't know if there's a magical solution to improve the defense right away. Tice will help out. That second unit, I'm the guy who hates to talk about how great the second unit is going to be. But you have Young and Tice, and you have the new guys that come out. They're energetic. They're on a new team. They want to prove themselves to the team, to the coaches. So that second unit will be active, especially with that. When like Doug said, he's able to do his thing and become Thad Johnson maybe with that unit. Unlike he may not be able to do if he starts with Vooch.
So to wrap this section up, when we're closing games, I'd like to hear your optimal lineup to close games. Just assuming, I know a lot of it's based on matchups, but just in your mind, what is our best five? If you were the head coach and you had to say, throw out our best five, what would you say that it would be? We'll start out with you, Big Dave.
I'm assuming Sato, Zach, of course. Give me Thad at the 4. Give me Temple at the 3.
Yes.
And give me, of course, Vucevic at the 5. And honestly, that stuff can change because I still don't know what Farouk is going to bring. Because honestly, I might have Farouk in there in the fourth quarter because I've seen him win games in the fourth quarter in the playoffs and things like that. So
yeah,
that might change.
Orlando,
he's been terrible.
I don't know what happened. Like, because it seemed like a really nice signing. I was like, oh man, I can't believe they got him so cheap when they signed him. And then I was like, oh, we got Amino. Let's go see what he's doing. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, he's had an up and down career. Like he's had. I just watched him a lot in Portland because Portland was in the playoffs. He had a couple of good years. Like he was really knocking down. He really redefined himself as like a really good knockdown shooter. Then I don't know what the hell happened to him. Like
I was shocked he was the first guy off the bench. Yeah. I really was. I couldn't believe he came off the bench. He was in before Thad. I mean, Dave, I think that's it. I think he hit on it. I trust those guys more than anybody else. I think Temple's our best defensive 3. So I think that's the best lineup. Thad, Vooch, Temple at the 3. That's the spot where we need to improve within a year. And obviously point guard, Sato and Zach. Doug, and Doug, do you agree?
I'm going to put Troy Brown Jr. in there at the 3.
I'm not mad at that.
Dave's right, though. It's completely the right lineup. I just wanted to see if I could have you jump out of the screen.
All right. I'm just saying, I got a couple arguments about Troy Brown Jr. I mean, he seems like a great kid. I wish him all the best. His numbers sucked this year. I mean, so I'm
this year.
He's barely played this year, but he has one good game against the third stringers on the Spurs, and suddenly he's the best answer for us at the 3. Come on, I've seen this movie before.
You're sitting there arguing for Denzel Valentine, who is.
I'm not arguing for Denzel Valentine.
You're always arguing for Denzel Valentine.
Denzel Valentine has been awful. I agree. Troy Brown, who knows? Maybe he'll be good. Maybe he needs a fresh start. He's done some things that are exciting. I'm glad. It's not like they played him 40 minutes. He played 10 minutes.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's an appropriate amount of time to give him a shot and see what he can make happen. This first game, he did a nice job.
He did.
He earns 10 minutes in the next game.
He did.
Denzel Valentine ain't earned 10 minutes in quite a while. So I'm happy with Troy Brown. As long as Troy Brown produces decently in his 10 minutes, he gets the shot. And if he can't, then maybe Javonte Green gets his 10 minutes. We got a lot of guys.
Go back to Denzel. Or we go back to Denzel. He's a good passer, good rebounder, good shooter.
Brown Jr., he's at least going to be here next year.
Hey, first of all, that's AK's decision. AK signed Denzel. That's part of the moves that AK made. He could have let him walk.
AK traded for Troy Brown. Did you miss out on that?
Yeah, he also traded for Troy Brown. Right? I'm just saying. Hey, listen. Hey,
he just signed Denzel to a 1-year qualifying deal. He gave up something for Troy Brown.
Right.
He went out and sought out Troy Brown. He wasn't just sitting on the team. I think if you're going to use that argument, Troy Brown is a guy you would probably feel much stronger about that AK likes than Valentine.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. Who knows? Maybe he was forced to take Troy Brown. We don't know that. We have no idea.
Yeah, maybe he was forced to do it in the trade that was the first trade that happened when the other part didn't go down yet. That makes no sense whatsoever. There's no sense. He obviously wasn't forced. He obviously sought him out for good reason. He looked good in the bubble. He had some potential. They gave up another guy who maybe had a little potential. They wanted Troy Brown. Like, and yeah, I like it. I like him as a guy to take a chance on. I don't think he's going to be great, but
so do I. I'm not trying to argue against it. I'm just trying to act like he shouldn't be starting. That's my only point. All my arguments on Twitter.
No, we're just talking about Denzel Valentine.
Yeah. We're not talking about him starting. He shouldn't be starting.
We saw. Well, you referred to my arguments on Twitter, which were people want Troy Brown Jr. to start already, and I'm just like, hey, I'm not ready to go there yet. I hope he does well. His numbers suck this year.
What I responded to was you saying that Troy Brown Jr. replacing Denzel Valentine won't win him a title.
I didn't say
implying that like somehow Denzel Valentine, the reverse of that argument is idiocy, would win you a title, which of course is just like a fake argument.
Doug, hey, listen, you want a lot of likes, you go on Twitter, you rip on Denzel Valentine. You got 1,000 people, hey, cheering you on. Great. Yeah. That's not the problem. Denzel's not the problem of this team.
But
the problem is the starters. Let's focus on bigger issues. I agree.
Better than Denzel Valentine. I got to imagine that's vodka in that like last day because like you just
listen. If you think this is vodka, then me and you need to hang out more.
I'm just saying you need vodka after Fred and I talk for 5 minutes.
Right. Oh, well, that's a fair point.
C-Dub, do you agree the best closing lineup? What's your best closing lineup?
I like the lineup. So I know it's fluid because Kobe could get hot. And that's where you maybe on this team, Sato's offense now with Vuce here won't be so it won't reveal itself to be bad as much when you need Sato to score because Vuce is here. But Kobe could get hot, and with San Antonio, he kind of led that comeback. So I like Dave's lineup. I like your lineup, Fred. But the caveat here, Sato, every now and then, if Kobe's willing Dylan, I'm willing to have Kobe in the lineup.
You can move Sato to the 3. Yeah. No one has been more unfairly vilified than Kobe White this year. He's asked to do very difficult role at 21 years old to suddenly just step in and become a great point guard. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I agree with you on that. Yeah,
and most people have buried him for his career. I still believe in Kobe. I thought he had a really nice game.
I agree.
Yeah. Anytime you can score like that in NBA, you're valuable, and it's a skill that's hard to. It's just a skill scoring.
You know what? I like when people say, "Oh, he's just going to beat Jamal Crawford." Like that's a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to beat Jamal Crawford? Yeah, great. That'd be awesome. 3 times, 6 man of the year. Awesome. That would be great. I love it.
That's a great number 7 pick. Right?
Yeah, I'm not high on Kobe in general, but I think you're right that especially because as a catch and shoot guy, he's probably the second best guy on the team outside of Zach, in my opinion. Like his threes when they're off are usually the high difficulty ones he takes. And if you start running the offense through Vooch in the fourth quarter, there's going to be a lot of open catch and shoot threes, especially because Kobe's not going to be the second guy they go run out at. That's going to be Zach.
Excellent.
He's going to get a lot of those shots that are kind of in his wheelhouse, and I trust him to be more aggressive than Sato or Temple shooting the threes when he gets those shots. Like Sato, sometimes he'll be open and he'll pass out of it anyway.
True.
That's actually pretty intriguing. You might have sold me on that, even though I'm not super high on Kobe. I think like with his one particular best skill, probably fits in pretty well.
Yep, I changed my fourth quarter lineup. You're right. Kobe White in the fourth quarter. You're right.
Absolutely right. We have a guy like Vooch, he puts everyone in his place. Everybody, their roles become more defined, and then you get better quality shots.
Yep.
And so Pat Will, he's playing bad, but now if you play through Vooch properly, his pump fake and drive game is going to be off the charts now. He can take better shots. He doesn't have to dribble around. Kobe shots are all horrible because he's one-on-one dribbling around and trying to shoot finger rolls over 7'7" centers.
Yeah,
that goes away. Those types of shots goes away. We have a guy like Vuce in the paint. You get better quality shots. The ball flows around, and people are in their spots better, and people look better. Right? You see this. We had Jordan Scotty. We know that everyone looks better. We had great players next to you.
White looked good.
Hope that happens
last night. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. So let's move on to topic number 4, the final topic of the show. Issue number 4.
Issue number 4, images remain. As a Bulls fan, what is your favorite image? Is there a picture that still resonates with you, that captures your feelings in a way no other can?
Let's go around. We'll start out with you, C-Dub, on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And not necessarily that image, that moment. At that time, when he had that first, 35 points. How many points did he have in the first half? Like 30, 33?
35. I think it was
35.
Yeah.
When it felt like at that moment, I was on a high just watching him play basketball. It felt like Jordan always he always had to like sort of like not prove, but if that's, are you really that great? And he wins. Are you really that great? And he wins again. Then he does something. He always met the moment. And that was a moment he met. And I was on cloud 9. I remember thinking like, this man is literally conforming reality, the world reality to his will. It was like, I want to be great. I mean this moment. I'll make this great awesome moment against Clyde Drexler and this control the whole world. In the moment in the second game in the first quarter. And I remember just being like, this dude is just like insanely just I couldn't I was on cloud 9 when that happened. When he was no shot, he controlled the game, he did anything he wanted to do. He just did anything he wanted to do. I've never seen it before. And so that moment, that game to me is one of the first thing that pops in my head with Michael Jordan, that he missed the moment all the time and he exceeded the expectations of his fans, and he literally, if he wanted to, he controlled the game. It bend the game to his own will. So that right there, that shrug, kind of puts it, in a great, picture about Mike was. That's it right there. That shrug.
We can't hear you at all.
Can't hear you, Fred. Can't hear you.
Oh, even he couldn't believe how great he was. Almost, like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, that's the thing. People don't understand now, growing up in this era, this 3-point shot wasn't anywhere near as big as it was in that era as it is today. And he hits 6.5. It was like my head literally exploded. I still remember Derrick Rose in his MVP year hit 5 in a regular season game. And people were, freaking out. And I just remember thinking, God, Jordan hit 6.5. In a finals, in a first game of the finals, just insanity. Yeah. So let's go on to you, Big Dave, on this one. What's the image or moment that sticks with you?
Wow. Like, honestly, for me, it was easy answers to talk about the dynasty. Talking about stuff like when Scottie missed one shot, when he played against the Clippers. Of course, the Jordan shrug, the steal that he did, more so than the shot, but the steal that he got on Karl Malone in Game 6. Always fascinated me more, because if you watch him that whole fourth quarter, you watch him study. You see him seeing that play continue to happen and him just go ahead filing it in his memory bank as he runs the play with John Stockton over to the other side. So just watching that stuff, it was greatness. But you know what I went with? I went with Joakim Noah against Boston in Game 6 of that triple overtime game. Because I'm talking about, that was the very last time, and more so than the Taj dunk on D Wade. I went with that because that was the last time I felt like a Bulls championship victory. Like I know that feeling of the Bulls winning, and that's what that feeling felt like for me. Because he steals it, he takes it the length of the floor, he dunks it, he fouls out Paul Pierce, and not only that, he goes and hits the free throw. To just seal everything together. And then they win the game and go to Game 7. That was the championship for the Bulls that year. That was it. That was the title. Yeah. It didn't matter after Game 7 what was going to happen. Of course, you wanted to win, but that was the title. For me, that image, I see it every time I even see Joakim Noah's face. Every time I look at Paul Pierce, I see that. I think about Doc Rivers with his hands on his knees, just like, oh my God, like just depleted and demoralized that we did that to him, because that was the greatest first round series I had ever seen. And it was just amazing. I think about it all the time. The fact that it happened at the United Center, the crowd going insane, all the energy that they kind of felt. Yeah, that was the moment for me that I was like, yes, we're back. The Bulls are back to relevancy. Guys are going to have to start paying attention to us. You knew that great things were coming for this team in the future, and you saw what they did the next year and the year after that.
Great call. Doug.
I mean, Dave kind of stole my thunder. That's like one of my all-time favorite basketball plays. But all the appreciation for you bringing it up. And if you've never seen it, just go to YouTube and look up Where Amazing Happens, Joakim Noah.
Yeah.
And they had that, like, in that year, they had this Where the Amazing Happens with this, like, iconic, like, classical type music. Like, dude, I start like tearing up every time I watch it. It was like so emotional to me, like watching that, which is a ridiculous thing to say. It was like, but true. So I'm gonna go with one, maybe one other thing I want to mention about Jordan's steal into the last shot. my two favorite little kind of like pieces of that is if you watch the video of the last shot, there's one Utah Jazz fan that just like sits down as soon as he like, it's just like it's over. Like everyone else is like, what's going to happen? And one guy's like, no, we're already screwed. It's already over. Just like sits down. He's like, no. It's like, and there's a video someone did where it's like, it points at him and says, it's like time traveler or something like this guy already knows what's happening. I love that. And then the fact that like, and as all Bulls fans, I refuse to believe that Jordan never came back with the Wizards. Like that didn't actually happen. It just was a fake thing put in there by CGI or something, but isn't an actual event. And so if you subscribe to that theory, then Jordan was like the only player to basically end his career with a championship winning moment. And like he gave that when he came back to the Wizards. Obviously we can't ignore that. But like at one point it was like he was going to end his carear. It'd be like if Tom Brady retired this year. Right. Except that like he didn't throw like a touchdown pass to win the game like in the last second. Right. Like he like not only like won at the end, but like he buried the shot that won them the game, like the final seconds of the game after stealing the ball. It would be like the greatest close to anyone's career in the history of sports that I know of, which makes it sad that he came back with the Wizards. But again, we don't count that. But so the other moment I'm going to mention, and it's not an image, I'm sorry, Fred, but it is a moment, is in 04-05, it was an amazing year. If you watch the Bulls that year, rekindled the love of this team for many, many people who remember those Luol Deng, Eddie Curry, Tyson Chandler, Kirk Heinrich, Ben Gordon, try-hard years. But the first time they made it back to the playoffs in that year was actually the loudest I have ever seen the United Center in the entire time I've been there. That game one for those series. And I've not been to like a finals game when Jordan was there, but I have been to a couple first round playoff Jordan games, and people, maybe it's because it's the first round and we're like dismissing the Charlotte Hornets, and people are like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. But they weren't that loud. Like this was much louder than any Jordan era game I went to. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. They were like, you know, like people were stomping their feet. I mean, it was just ruckus and crazy and nuts. And, you know, when they were chanting Nocioni at the end, like it was just unbelievable. Like that whole game and that experience was probably my favorite Bulls experience. Those first two games were both just nuts. I can't remember if the Nocioni game was the first or second one now. My memory eludes me, but we won two close ones. And it was just incredible feeling like the Bulls were back. And then like everyone on the team was like under 23, and you felt like, man, like these guys are going to roll. They're going to be like superstars. We're going to like win titles with these guys. And then of course, sadly, none of that came remotely close to happening. But it was, for a moment, it felt like just like that Noah thing, like something great's going to happen. Like you just felt like, oh man, I can't wait for this next season to start.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, Dave called out that play. The Taj dunk on Wade had to be the apex of that Rose era team. I mean, because that I still remember that. To me, that's the iconic image of his dunk on Wade. I think that was the high point of that Bulls era team. But people forget the second part of that, which was the 2015 team that won 50 games. That was a very good team with Gasol when he signed as a free agent. And game 2 of the playoffs against the Cavs, or game 3 it would have been, where Rose hit that last second three, banked it in. That's the other high point that people always forget because that ended so poorly. But, you know, I had a belief there also that they could potentially do it. Those were the only two times I really believed, oh, my God. Well, also 2012 until, you know, against the Sixers in game 1, I'm like, we're going to do this. But obviously that ended horribly. But you know, that was such a good era. Those are the three images, the two images, and the third image is one of sorrow or Rose, you know, on the ground.
Yeah.
After game 1, man, it was insane. Like everyone dismissed the Bulls completely. Yeah. And after game 1, like every single person on ESPN was like, holy crap, the Heat are in trouble. The Bulls are going to get their butt. And we got our asses like gentlemen sweeps after that. But like for a moment, there's like, just like you said, for a moment, you're like, oh man, we're going to do this. We're going to knock LeBron out. Like it's going to be incredible. And then, sadly, that game 1 was the apex, unfortunately.
I will say this, like my other great memory was the flu game, because I was at the Chicago Stadium because the Bulls were allowing fans for about $10 at that time to come in and watch the game on the big screen at the United Center. And I remember going and they put the whole thing together. It was like a Bulls home game. The cheerleaders were out there. Ray Clay did all the announcements for the starting lineup. It was amazing. And so just watching that flu game and when Jordan hit that 3-point shot to seal it, just the explosion that happened in that stadium. It was physically shaking. Everybody was going insane. So I don't have a feeling of that not being a Bulls home game because I was there at the stadium watching that happen, man. So that's all I feel about it when I see it.
Doug, when you talked about that against Utah, the strip of Karl Malone, and I remember I was in my bedroom, I had my little Gold Star TV, and again, I'm like, we know Jordan's great. I was like, okay, this guy's awesome. Like, what is he going to do? And then I remember he stole the ball, and I yelled at my dad. I said, "Dad," he said, "What?" I said, "Look, he's doing it again. Like he just had to steal the ball. Like he just had to somehow get the ball at the last second shot." I said, he's going to win the game. He's going to do what? He's going to win the game. Like he's going to do it. Like how can you do this? Like my mind is broke. Like how can you be that great? Like I remember in that play, Dave was talking about. I saw that play.
Yeah,
Jordan saw that still like throughout the whole game.
Yep,
he saw that, but he waited to the last. Like everything seemed to fall into place for this man.
Yeah,
he rises to the occasion all the time. I remember I was laughing. He had the ball. We drove him past half court. I was laughing because I knew it was over.
Yeah,
and I couldn't believe the dude was that great. And then he did it again. I'm like, okay, you can't say anything about it again. You can't say anything about somebody's greater than he is. You can't. Of course, people still do. Whatever. Talk to me about that. But come on, man.
You should do an opposite, guys. The ball guy should do an opposite of the tournament of trash for like the great moments, and we should have some kind of tournament of 64. You know what I mean? Like you can add the Pippen dunk on Ewing. You can add the Kukoc fade.
That Kukoc shot.
Kukoc shot 94.
Get the John Lucas game out there.
The Nate Robinson game.
They ended the Heat streak. The Nate Robinson playoff game.
How can we
see Noah coming back at like game 7, like on one leg, and then like after a career game?
Me and Dub were watching that at a bar, and he and I were the main reason the bar was going crazy because we were losing our minds. From the moment we got there to the moment we left, we were losing our minds, man. Yeah, that's a very memorable game. Absolutely.
The 3 alphas up 2-0.
2-0, man. Up 2-0, Fred.
How about Pax winning
the 3? Yeah,
hitting the 3 against the Suns.
I never saw that happen because the entire time for the last 2 minutes of the game, my hands were like this in my face. I didn't see the layup. I didn't see the missed shot from Phoenix. I didn't see the 3. Yeah, Kevin Johnson. Frank Johnson. No, it's Frank. It was Frank Johnson. No, Frank took that shot. Yeah, Frank off the bench. Frank took that shot.
No, what shot?
No, 93.
Right 93 in that final game.
No, but after Paxson hit the 3.
All right. No. I'm talking about before that when Frank shot the ball and he airballed it, and then Mike got that rebound, and then he took it the length of the floor and laid it in.
Laid it in. That cut
that
was
shot.
Huge.
Yeah.
Another
colossal play.
Another memory is that same play happened in Utah, and I remember. He did the same thing. Remember, it was like I forgot, like 20-something seconds left, whatever. Michael took a coast to coast and shot a layup. He did the same. It was the same thing. It was everyone else on the floor is nervous.
You're right, because that was right before the steal. You're right.
And everyone else is like on the court is like a little half tick slower. They're little. Michael was like Michael was like in the zone. He's like, I'm fast. I'm thinking faster than you right now. I'm just going. And he just took it. The same thing happened to fit him. Like he did the same thing. Yep. This is insane. And then he stole the ball to come along. Oh my God, come on.
Greatness. I love it.
Guys, this was great. We got to wrap this up. I just got from our producer, Steven Johnson. Thank you so much for producing the show. The Ball guys, tell us where we can find you guys.
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, man, you can find us at ballsports.com, BAWLsports.com, the website. But mainly, if you want to converse with us, my man, Big Dave, is on Twitter at Ball Sports. I'm also on Twitter at Ball Sports 1. Follow Dave, man. He's really active. He's really funny. And yeah, man. Also, we got a YouTube channel. You go to YouTube, search for BAWL. You'll find all our video on online. Awesome. I think that's about it, Dave.
And then Doug, of course, at the Big Red Bus, and obviously at the Bulls beat. So thanks again, guys, for jumping on. I call then end to the Knights of the Roundball Table this evening. Hope to have you on again soon. Thanks to our producer, Steven Johnson. Let's go Bulls, and I'm sure we'll turn this around quickly.
There you go.